Xenomorphs. Deadly. If they reach Earth, humanity ends.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Movie Blues. Today on the show we're going to see if the new video game, Alien Rogue Incursion, could possibly undo the damage done to my nerd soul by FX's disaster Alien Earth.
I think it might be better if I left. I find you unpleasant to be around.
So grab your VR goggles or your Xbox controller and get ready for another bug hunt, Marines. To rewind a little, if you've been watching my channel, you'll know that I am one of the biggest Alien fans on Earth, and as such, I am still struggling with the mental, physical, and emotional damage caused by Alien Earth. It was a show that had some positives and some negatives. The positives were that it was so terrible that it forced me to produce a 40-minute takedown of the series that got viewed by nearly 40,000 people. If you're one of the 1,000 new subs that have arrived since then, hello. Are you okay? I mean, I'm still not, but how you doing? The negatives of Alien Earth ranged from lazy, lore-breaking writing to boneheadedly stupid characters in a show without a single actual scare in it. It was 8 hours of Alien content that were as devoid of tension as they were devoid of intellect. And after careful review, I'd declare Alien Earth as the worst entry in the entire franchise's nearly 50-year history. So I wanted to just move on with my life after Alien Earth, maybe do a review of the new dinosaur movie Primitive War, or maybe start another found footage horror list on my channel, but then a little reminder beeped in my phone that let me know that Alien Rogue Incursion was coming out this week for Xbox. This is a game that has been ported over to Xbox and Steam after it was released back in February on PSVR only. And I can't do VR. I got the glasses, I get fucking nauseous when I wear the goddamn helmet. I'm probably gonna trip over the cable. I have a newborn baby, so what am I gonna do? Like rock the baby with a giant Geordie LaForge helmet on my head? It's just not working. All of a sudden, I felt my blood chill, my heart race, and my brain begin to throb. How could I possibly recover after having endured 8 hours of demoralizing nonsense that nearly destroyed my love for this franchise entirely? How could I ever be ready to Alien again after this? And then, boom! Survios Studios released their remastered and remodeled console version of Alien Rogue Incursion out of the blue, after only being announced less than a month ago. And I'll tell you right now that if this game turned out to be a massive stinker, you probably wouldn't be seeing the same Alien fan in front of you. You know, a guy wearing a import retro Alien Trilogy TV shirt and surrounded by plastic crap from the Alien universe. No, you would be seeing an actually broken man. I mean, far more broken than I usually am. A man who would have just watched his favorite series take 2 massive consecutive L's in the same week. Thankfully for my brain, my soul, and my forever love of Alien, Rogue Incursion swooped in and delivered one of the best recent Alien experiences out there. A polished and fully formed nightmare that reminded me all over again why Alien is my favorite franchise of all time, and why sometimes you gotta just wait for better creatives to take the place of bumbling, round-headed fruit knobs who just shat down my brainstem for 8 weeks straight on FX. Yes, thankfully, Alien Rogue Incursion is a major win, although it's not without its various video-gamey flaws. So without further ado, let's get into the game. I will be once again using clips directly captured from my Xbox, and I will be making sure that this is a non-spoiler review in case you are planning on playing the game, so don't worry, no big reveals here. Alright, let's get started. Alien is the kind of franchise that can lend itself easily to a variety of genres, just like the films themselves. And over the past 15 or so years, we've actually seen a golden age for fantastic Alien games, as each new one that I've played in that period of time brought something entirely different and brilliant to the table. So when it comes to a new Alien game being announced, I typically ask myself the same question. What kind of game is this, and what is it going to be like? Is it full-on action, or is it a full-on dungeon crawl? Is it a pared-down horror game? What are we dealing with here? With Rogue Incursion, it seems like the people who made the game have an overabundance of love for all of these various qualities, and that shows in the game.
Now we just have to survive.
Rogue Incursion has the isolated, back-against-the-wall feeling of one of my favorite Alien games, the Metroid-like Nintendo DS game Aliens Infestation. Like in that game, you'll find yourself in a labyrinth of a facility riddled with locked doors, complicated puzzles, and an ever-expanding map that you'll find yourself doubling back through across all 5 hours or so of gameplay. Who doesn't love a good dungeon crawl? I mean, maybe people who like to go hiking and fishing on the weekends don't get a hard-on for being hopelessly lost in a dungeon, but I sure do. And I even kind of like hiking. But thankfully, this isn't just a game of solely unlocking doors in silence, because Alien Rogue Incursion owes a tremendous part of its DNA to Alien Isolation, and that DNA strand is made up of pure terror. This game owes much of its plot, vibe, characters, and setting to Alien Isolation. This is like an action-forward escalation of that game, almost like a spiritual sequel. Like Isolation, the game is broken up by manual save stations that you'll be sprinting to constantly in total terror, forcing you to break down your gameplay into short bursts as you struggle to reach solace from your encroaching enemies. While Isolation is a masterpiece, and this is much more of a slight experience, after all, this began as a VR title, the two games have that same suffocating feeling of dread and hopelessness that perfectly mirror how the crew of the Nostromo must have felt as they were being hunted down one by one. The Alien franchise lends itself so perfectly to games like Isolation and this, adding an actual heft and weight to the xenomorphs that will leave you with chewed fingernails and sweaty palms every time they draw near. But this isn't just the straightforward survival horror experience of Alien Isolation all over again, because Rogue Incursion thankfully has you pretty much armed to the teeth for the duration of its gameplay. You'll be taking on hordes of Xenos here instead of just one like in Isolation. And whereas in Isolation you had to spend your time hiding in lockers and breathing like John Goodman after a plate of ribs, in Rogue Incursion you'll be going toe-to-toe with the Xenos, shoving shotguns and pulse rifles up their asses until they spit up hot green acid. Along with the new additions to the Alien World gameplay, like this absolutely mental pistol, and these badass remote mines,
Bomb's locked.
you'll find yourself equipped and dripped out with the best weaponry that the Colonial Marines have to offer. Feeling like a mix of some of the best elements of some of the best recent Alien games, Rogue Incursion should have a little bit of everything for every kind of Alien fan game player. This is a game that kind of feels like you're playing one of the recent Resident Evil first-person games, where you're working your way through a nightmare maze of horrors while saving your game one panic room at a time. So while this game feels like a perfect Alien experience, as we just found with Alien Earth, first things first, you gotta respect the lore. Or else, what the fuck are we doing here? Why even make an Alien game or TV show or movie? Thankfully, Rogue Incursion slots perfectly into the franchise, almost as if it were directed or produced by Ridley Scott or James Cameron themselves. Set between Alien and Aliens, Rogue Incursion is in that perfect sweet spot of feeling like both of those movies, and, more importantly, looking and sounding like them too. The retro future tech here is just fucking spot on, with the chunky and clunky late 70s and early 80s style tools in your arsenal looking and sounding like lost tech from an alternate timeline, where the biggest tech products on Earth are still VHS players and the Walkman. I couldn't get enough chunky tech in this game. Even the map that you're constantly holding up over half the screen just has this absolutely pitch-perfect retro Alien aesthetic. The tech is spot on here. The locations look perfect as well. But what about the story? And does it stick out like a sore thumb like it did in Alien Earth with a bunch of lore-breaking, head-scratching bullshit? Negative, Marine. The story of Rogue Incursion feels perfectly crafted to sink into the lore of the Alien universe with ease. Corporate espionage, science labs overrun with infestation, and a galaxy of people just trying to get by are the classic markers found here for any great piece of Alien content. And there's a reason why Alien Earth feels like utter horseshit compared to this. And that's because proper universe immersion all begins with good writing and good world building. While Alien Earth was obsessed with subverting the franchise and challenging pre-existent lore with Disney shitposting writers and the massive knob-headed idiot that is Noah Hawley, the writer for Alien Rogue Incursion is Alex White, a renowned sci-fi writer who's published several lore-approved novels in the Alien universe. In this game, he is using characters from his novels like Zula Hendrix and the android Davis 1, and you can just feel how much Alex understands and loves these characters throughout the game. I found myself endeared to these digital creations far more than a single character from Alien Earth, including Zula, who felt like such a fully fleshed out human being, even when all we see of her here is her hands. That is the power of good writing, folks. When a pair of goddamn hands can outshine and overcharacterize a protagonist better than an 8-hour television show. Alien Rogue Incursion is a pure alien experience, from the pitch-perfect locales to the stunningly retro tech, to the characters who find themselves racked with the kind of terror that you could only feel if you were stuck in a situation like this. This game feels quintessentially alien, and like his novels in the expanded universe, Alex White has written a plausible, lore-accurate, and engaging story here that had me reading all of the ship logs and delving as far as I could into the mythos surrounding this game and its place in the overall franchise. In short, they nailed it with their characters and story here, so I didn't have to spend the duration of this game feeling like I did watching Alien Earth. That creeping sensation that the people who made this thing actually understood the source material and weren't just trying to crowbar in their own bullshit into the game to make some half-baked socio-political point. That all being said, having a good story, being lore accurate, I mean, these are really important things, but at the end of the day, this is a video game, so let's take a look at maybe the most important element, the gameplay. Arguably, this is where things get a little more complicated. As an Alien fan, I was in heaven playing this game, but as a sometimes game reviewer, it was a bit more of a mixed bag. For me, and especially after Alien Earth, I'll admit that gameplay isn't everything. So if you're not much of an Alien fan and you're just looking for a AAA gaming experience that outshines Alien Isolation, you may want to look elsewhere. So the negatives of this game aren't world-ending, but they must be mentioned regardless. Since this was ported over from a VR game, clearly you should expect that graphically this isn't some sort of revolutionary masterpiece. Textures can be quite samey, and the environments aren't full of crazy variety, and sometimes this game looks a lot more like Aliens Colonial Marines than Ghosts of Tsushima. For me, when it comes to graphics quality in 2025, it isn't always about the size of the boat, but instead the motion in the ocean. While it isn't a graphical masterpiece, the way that the game devs used the environments, their fantastic sound design, and the creative tech choices all add up to a truly effective gaming experience, regardless of the polish. In terms of further negatives, I mean, the gameplay loop took a little bit of time to get used to, but maybe that's just on me, maybe I just suck at video games, I'm not sure. Because it was ported from VR, your character Zula feels quite heavy here. Like, she can't jump, and her hands are constantly moving across the screen as you work on puzzles and explore your environment. While at first I felt just so bogged down and slow here, I had to remind myself of Alien Isolation, which took a very similar approach to your corporeal form. It ends up adding to the horror and realism of the game, but I can understand if some of you guys feel like you're playing RoboCop Rogue City instead of Halo Combat Evolved. Like a lot of games like this, Rogue Incursion is full of samey feeling puzzles that may or may not start to drive you functionally insane. In VR, this wire crossing puzzle maybe had some extra pizzazz, but after you need to run one of these puzzles for the 75th time in 4 hours, you might start feeling like you're an electrician instead of the star of an Alien game. And speaking of aliens, the encounters with the xenomorphs may start to weigh on you as well. Because this game just has a really low amount of enemy variety, you'll find yourself pitted against the same 3 to 5 xenomorphs at a time, basically unending, as they keep spawning throughout maybe 80% of the game rather constantly. Since you need to preserve ammo, this puts a stress on the game in general, because you can't really lollygag your way around here. Every time you stop and consider a puzzle, or stop to smell the roses, or plot a route, it's only a matter of time until you hear those goddamn blasted musical cues that mean it's time for another inescapable bug hunt. If I had to sum up the negative issues of this game, I think most of them probably stem from the fact that it was ported over from a VR game. Or they just stem from the amount of repetition of the game loop or the enemy types or the environments. And I know that sounds pretty detrimental to this game on the whole, but at the same time, I think you should hear me out before you take this game off your Steam wishlist. So now let's discuss what works here. Fear. Fear is a powerful tool, and it's something that no Alien game should be without. And that specific emotion spreads like a full-on infestation here, because like all the best Alien video games, Incursion has a special way of scaring the shit out of you. Through scant resources, long-winded sections between save points, and some great atmosphere on top of it, Incursion perfectly captures the horror elements of the franchise that keep most of us coming back for more. With my 3D headphones on, I yelped out loud like 20 or more times while playing this game.
Fuck!
Showing once again that it isn't the xenomorph itself that is scary, but instead how talented writers and content creators use the alien as a tool to scare the piss out of you. No single moment from Alien Earth had me even half as verklempt as I felt while playing this game, with one nail-biting sequence after another doing what the best entries in this franchise do best, making the xenomorph scary again. Yes, that is the true star of the show here, the xenomorph. And he isn't a puppy dog or a cute little Grogu baby. He's a force of absolute terror in this game that stalks you throughout nearly every moment of the narrative. While I didn't love the alien design here from the game trailers, I mean, these are kind of like gray mixes between the Xeno from Alien and the warrior drones from Aliens. Once again, it's all about how you use it, especially in a game. And in this instance, Alien Rogue Incursion hits a home run. These are some of the smartest, creepiest, and most expressive xenomorphs I've seen in any game. They're constantly working out new routes to hunt you, and just when you think you've gotten these things figured out, they pop out of a new corner and they stalk you in an all-new way. Somehow they captured the fear of the Xeno from Isolation, gave it a James Cameron's Aliens makeover, and still managed to act like the perfect organism from our nightmares. The game devs apparently based the Xeno's behavior off of the raptors from Jurassic Park, and that feels like a perfect analogy here since these things are just so creepy and smart and they feel like the ultimate predator that they're made out to be in the best entries of the franchise. Utilizing fantastic AI on the Xenos here makes them a threat that felt smart, sleek, and always watching, adding to the paranoia and urgency of almost every encounter with them. Fear. Fear is a huge factor in what makes this game so successful, and it doesn't just boil down to encounters with the xenomorph either. Once I got the hang of the weirder aspects of the gameplay here, I found myself fully immersed in a movie-level experience, where I felt like I was fighting for my life. And without spoiling anything about the events of the game, I can assure you that even if you're somehow safe and resting, you're still going to feel profound stress and a ticking clock always hanging over your head while playing. The game is also enriched by great weapons, interesting environmental puzzles, and a whole lot of victorious moments as you go 1v1 against a hive of nightmares. Alien Rogue Incursion isn't the most polished game ever made. At best, I could give it like a 7 out of 10 from a pure video game perspective. But at a price point that is about half the cost of a AAA game, and considering this began as a VR game, which typically are low on content, effort, and actual gameplay, Rogue Incursion still managed to be worth every penny. You'll find yourself forgiving this game's minor faults and momentary glitches for an overall experience that feels quintessentially alien. I never thought that between a $250 million FX show from the creator of Fargo and Legion and a VR game silently ported over from PlayStation like last week's Lunch, that the latter would be the more successful, faithful Alien product, but here we are. Rogue Incursion is the perfect palate cleanser after you've swallowed 8 hours of misery during the run of FX's Alien Turd. And it was a perfect reminder of what makes this series so special, regardless of the types of media that it exists in. Like most things, how good of an Alien franchise entry something is revolves around how good the writing is. How that writing respects the lore, and how that piece of media can make you feel like you're inside one of your favorite movies. Or trapped inside. While it didn't hit the heights of Alien Isolation, and maybe it's not a AAA gaming experience to some's definition, Rogue Incursion still did everything that it needed to do to firmly cement itself as a piece of worthwhile Alien content in my heart and headcanon. Sometimes, when you've got the license to a beloved franchise, your best bet is to play by the rules and deliver something that comes from the heart, instead of trying to flip the table over and reset everything according to your own blasted headcanon. In this case, Alien Rogue Incursion is another perfect entry into my favorite franchise, a nerve-shredding and lore-accurate game that reminded me of all the best parts of the Alien movies instead of all the worst. And at this point in our oversaturated franchise media hellscape, that's really all I can ask for. They got the assignment here and delivered a nearly pitch-perfect Alien experience that should stand toe-to-toe with some of the best EU entries, video games, novels, and other pieces of recognized Alien lore. So get out there, Marines, quit your grinning and drop your linen, because Alien Incursion is the perfect Alien experience at the absolute best time possible. And that's a good thing, because if this game stunk ass, I'd probably be listing this entire collection of Alien plastic garbage on eBay, instead of ordering this Alien Covenant creature pack in the middle of the night from a Chinese eBay seller. Turns out, if you make things with respect in the franchises that people love, it will motivate those people to go out and buy more crap that makes them happy. Everybody fucking wins. A good piece of franchise content from a series that you love makes you feel part of that world again, and that is a feeling that no genre-subverting, Rugrat baby robot bullshit can overtake. So here's to more content that actually makes sense in the franchises that we love. Until next time, I am DS Lyons of the Movie Blues, signing out. Bye.
Because I love you, and I love you, and I love you, and I've seen all your movies, and I love your movies, and I think you're the best.